Teachers of Reddit, what was the worst thing you had to confiscate from a student?
A crossbow, property of a 17-year-old student at the boarding school where I used to work. The same boy was also fond of bringing pheasants to school that killed on his father's estate and plucking them in the shower block. Not a teacher, but I'm half deaf and my music teacher took my hearing aid and refused to accept that it wasn't an earbud. Then he yelled at me for the rest of the class for not playing in tune, couldn't exactly tell how well I was playing since I could hear it. My friend is diabetic and has an insulin pump. They had multiple teachers over the years think it's an MP3 player and try to confiscate it, before realizing it's attached to their body and they literally can't hand it over. A huge black dildo. A child found it in the school's garden and said I found a ding-dong in the garden and I'm taking it home for mom. That day, I was not professional. Someone in my class had their phone taken because their Siri went off and said, "What do you need from me, slut?" Preschool teacher here. I had to convince a 4-year-old that his mom's wedding ring should go into a special box on the front desk instead of on the finger of a 6-year-old girl he had crush on. Later he brought in his dad's car keys, and a bottle opener. A dead squirrel. I taught preschool at the time. I once did that too. My primary school girlfriend got kissed by a dude from her class and I was super mad, because he was stronger than me and I couldn't just get back at him with the same thing. The next day, I hear animals fighting on my way to school, and moments later, a squirrel falls dead from a tree. I have no idea what killed it, but it didn't look wounded. So I threw out my lunch and put it in the now empty bag. The kid who kissed my girlfriend was, and still is, a notorious liar, so when they found it in his bag, nobody believed it wasn't him, and he couldn't say anything to prove it wasn't. He wasn't even able to say that it wasn't even his bag or the squirrel was in, because he was known for stealing other kids' lunch. I guess it was my perfect crime. I had to confiscate hand sanitizer from a student who decided to drink it to get drunk and threw up everywhere. And this is why, kids, it is important to listen in chemistry class. This actually came up in a chemistry lab. One guy heard sanitizer had alcohol in it and you could see his eyes light up. The teacher had to calmly explain why he'd probably die or get violently sick. No, a teacher, she and her first or second grade class, can't remember which, were on lunch. Lunch lady walks up and tells her one of her students just tried to buy an extra something with over $1,000 in cash she had stuffed in a tiny coin pouch that looked like a plushy pink duck. Teacher called the girl's house and the mom was 9.8 into a full-blown 10-tenths panic after looking for it all morning. This was the early 2000s when it was still normal to pay bills in cash, in person. Apparently they forgot to give the girl her allowance, 50 cents, so she took the paper money instead. Worst thing, bullets. From a first grader. Had to do a room clear to look for a gun. Best thing, a cat a high school student brought in their backpack. I taught first grade and confiscated a piece of a broken beer bottle from a 6-year-old. It really surprised me, because he was the sweetest kid. Turns out another classmate asked him to bring a weapon and hide it in the playground sand, so that he could get back at another kid. I tried to do more life lesson things than suspension for both boys, because they're freaking 6, but school policy had them both suspended for a few days. Confiscated 3 knives from one kid, but the weirdest thing was a porn video from a 9-year-old girl. She brought it to school to show off to the boys. Took it from her grandfather's stash. Big tit fantasies and anal desires. Had to read it to the short-sighted 60-year-old vice principal. I was 21, at the time. Kind of off topic, but why did you have to read it to the VP? In what world does this conversation take place, law? VP, I had to confiscate a pornographic video from one of the students today. VP, what's the name of the video? I don't think that's relevant. VP, I said, what's the name of the video? He wanted to know if he needed a copy to add to his collection for science, of course. I confiscated a knife off a grade 10 kid, I think. It was a while ago now, but he was just being an idiot with it. I was doing my teaching prac at an all-boys Catholic school. He had a can of Coke between his feet and he was stabbing down, trying to take the top of the can off to make it into a cup. Very dumb kid. I had to call his dad. With my supervising teacher, his dad was pissed. Apparently, it wasn't the first time he'd brought a knife to school. Only reason he wasn't suspended was because he was just being stupid with it, not malicious. A journal. It detailed exactly how he was going to kill each of his family members, including his baby sister, with diagrams and steps. It also included how he would hide that he did it, including I'll burn this book and cry a lot. I'm only 7, how could I do that to my own family? People are easy to fool. There were a lot of other diagrams and such in there of other people he would kill. It was brutal. He had to be sent away for help as he was considered an immediate threat to just about everyone. He was too young at the time, but they were looking at potential antisocial personality disorder with him. Bullets buried in melted chocolate in a 4th grader's duffel bag. What made it annoying was that we needed to get his textbook and notebooks out before they were ruined, but this student also had a problem with incontinence, so I wasn't sure what I was dealing with at first. The tragic coda is that the boy had brought the box of rifle ammo to school as a way of remembering hunting trips with his father, who had recently killed himself with a handgun. This is one of several reminders I've had that students can be coming to school with some dark backstories. Not a teacher, but as a student I had my antidepressants and ADHD meds confiscated cause they were doing bag checks. I never got them back, and my parents had to get me a refill. Confiscated again until my parents told the principal. A pair of handcuffs that read "Take me, am yours" from a 1st grader. Was a paraprofessional. Had to confiscate hard liquor from 4th graders. The public system sad. My mom told me that a kid in elementary school came to the school with a bag, so the teacher took a look and there was a f***ing baby in it. The girl wanted to show her friends her little brother. The baby vomited all over himself and the parents didn't even notice that their 1-week child was missing. A taser disguised as a torch. My mother's a 1st grade teacher. She had to confiscate what a student thought was a rubber bracelet. Turns out it was the base to her mom's BF's broken condom. She picked it out of the trash not knowing what it was and wore it to school. So I teach high school. I have had to confiscate masks because kids found a way to saw chunks out of the desks and chairs. I had to find an alternative very quickly, but now I, and many other teachers, have chairs and desks with large chunks missing. I've also had to confiscate a phone with Tinder installed because a senior was trying to find love in this lonely world. After saying this, another student shouted, "You just wanna get your DCK sucked. Calm down." My teacher took my gold NASA pin I got for my birthday because it wasn't fair to the other students. I never got it back. Teacher definitely was jealous you had a better pin than them. Was a 8th grade substitute. A vibrator with a phone app that another student was controlling. My aunt teaches 2nd grade and she can't even count the number of shifts she has confiscated. She also caught 2 children from her class having sex in the bathroom 2nd grade. You're what, 8? The scariest part is when you try to figure out how they even knew that was a thing. Not a teacher, but when I was in 2nd grade a kid brought his mom's vibrator to class cause he thought it was a toy submarine. Obviously we didn't know any better until years later when that same kid told us how embarrassed his mom was to this day. Most dangerous, a knife from an 8th grader. Most annoying, different school than above, but a Wi-Fi jammer and a USB killing device from an 8th grader. The weirdest one was definitely the fish in a vase they found during locker checks. It was in an unassigned locker someone had added a lock to. Inside was a live betta fish in about as large a vase as you can fit in a locker. Fully decorated. Someone had clipped a little book light to the top of the vase, presumably so fish wasn't in the dark all the time. No one claimed to know whose it was or how long it had been there, so it lived in the coach's office for at least that year. Not a teacher, but a bus driver. I had to confiscate a 5th grader's cell phone a few days ago, specifically because he was showing hardcore porn to 1st graders with it. Lots of phone calls that day.